firstly, thanks to all of you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And we figured that with some of the things that have been written recently about the application of marketing automation technology into talent acquisition, that it would be good to get a group of kind of experts who understand the tech to get together and just to kind of dig into the topic slightly more. So what we're going to talk about for the next hour is marketing automation versus CRM. So what, for talent acquisition. And we're going to do it in two halves. Okay, part one, first half hour, sort of 35 minutes, big picture stuff, strategy, what's changed or changing, T10s and strategy. And Madeline, Chad, Tim, and Allyn are going to be here for that. And then we're going to look at part two, is like, the operational practicalities and, challenges of getting success and pitfalls and that kind of stuff. And Bradley from Candidate Hub is going to join us, and Adam from Candidate ID is going to join us. But so for the first part, I'm really delighted to be joined by Madeline, who is the founder of Aptitude Research. She's worked for most of the market leading kind of HR research firms. She's written books, she's quoted in the broadsheet, she stands on stage all the time. Madeline, great to see you. Also, Tim Sackett, founder of HRU Technical Resources, has written over 2,000 articles on HR and TA. He's often quoted, consulted, and presents. Welcome, Tim. Chad, founder of Catch-22 Consulting and the founder of HR's most dangerous podcast, the Chad and Cheese podcast. And when you listen to any of that stuff, you can understand why Chad was also one of the US military's most successful drill sergeants, and that military discipline and expertise that he brings to it. And also to Allyn Bailey. Brilliant to have you, Allyn, now founder of Transformation Tapas, a company that is helping organizations thrive in a dynamic and changing environment, but also was formerly global recruitment marketing lead at Intel. I mean, we know from the times that we spent with you at Intel just how dynamic and kind of progressive the things that you were trying to do there. Allyn's got a strong background in ethnography, market, and user research, which she brings to everything that she does. So welcome, guys. Great to have you. So let's start with the big picture, okay? What's changed, what's changing, TA trends, kind of strategy, and based on your kind of deep understanding of CRM and ATS and kind of marketing automation technology, how does that impact on, the technologies that organizations are currently using or should be using and their kind of operating model? So I'm going to start with Madeline.
Thanks, Scott. It's interesting because what we're seeing, like on the research side and some of the consulting work I do, is companies are continuing to invest in CRM heavily, or recruitment marketing platforms, or they're replacing their existing providers. I mean, this is a market where there's a lot of replacement, like we're moving from one provider to the other. And yet this whole piece around marketing automation is sort of left out of the conversation. It's like talent acquisition copied marketing in a way, as it does, and looks at kind of what marketing's doing. We're doing the same thing with recruitment, but we're not thinking about marketing automation, which serves a very different function than CRM. I mean, so we're starting a lot of research right now in the CRM space and seeing that this is a huge gap in the functionality that providers offer, but also in the education out there. I mean, I think a lot of companies don't know that this is maybe what they need to think about, like a better way to look and manage your engagements, manage and automate all your marketing interactions so you can really know who's ready now, who's warm, who's cold. That doesn't typically happen in the CRM. So it's just very interesting. All this money is kind of being put into CRM, and yet we're missing a big piece of this puzzle.
Yeah, Madeline. I totally agree, because I think there's this major issue with low adoption with CRM, and I know, Madeline, in your study you found that as well. To me, CRM is more of a recruiting ops technology, and marketing automation is more for the actual day-to-day recruiters who are trying to make placements. And we see the ATS market starting to put in what they call CRM. It's really marketing automation light. And so it's trying to get there, but it's just not going deep enough on the marketing automation side. And so, recruiters who are trying to do this become super frustrated in a marketplace where everybody is begging for talent, and they really desperately could use more marketing automation They could also, it's not one or the other, right? This is a combination. They need both. You need a CRM, you need great marketing automation. And too often they think CRM, they don't just, Madeline, they just don't know the difference between CRM and marketing automation. They think it's all the same. And some of that is CRM marketing themselves as that. Mm-hmm. And so there's this misnomer. I know Allyn and I, Madeline, we're all at HR Tech, and the marketing, wording and stuff we use is so powerful. And I think it really causes mass confusion in the marketplace.
Nothing like vaporware, right? I think one of the things that we really have to focus on with regard to adoption is messaging around being able to get rid of the menial tasks for recruiters. They have a lot to do day to day, and we have to take a look at scale. We have scale today that most companies haven't seen before. So they have to be able to use the infrastructure and or framework of a CRM and then layer it with marketing automation. You can't just have one and hope that it happens with everything, right? So much like we have with our candidate databases for years, where we've spent money over and over and over to acquire the exact same candidates, and then we allow them to atrophy and rot in a database. So we're not fiscally responsible as business people on the talent side of the house. We have to start to care first and foremost, and then we have to start to think about being fiscally responsible. We hear all about candidate experience. What does that really mean from a human standpoint? It means that we care. It means that we actually give a shit, right? So at that point, how do we layer in marketing automation to be able to ensure that black hole doesn't exist, and that we start to impact the dollars and the people that are in that or were sent to the black hole before we get rid of that black hole. So I think we need to understand as an industry what the real problem is. We want a silver bullet, and they don't exist. We need to stop looking for silver bullets. We need to blow up, implode the process, and we need to look for systems that will help us care.
Right. I think there's a second piece to it, Chad, and that is, yes, we need systems that can help people care, right? And understand how to build those relationships over time that are going to allow them to actually, move people forward in the process, which we're just not able to do today with our current systems. But I think the second piece of it is that, the future of recruiting, the future of everything we're looking at in the talent space is data focused, right? And a CRM in and of itself can house, organize, and perhaps allow you to access data and information. But without strong marketing automation, you have no mechanism to have a forward-looking way to collect data over time, right? At the right touch points, in the right point in the relationship that actually serves as a vehicle to move the relationship forward. We're very, this is part of the reason I think why CRMs have not been highly successful in the past, is because we use CRMs just like we use ATSs, right? Which is, I'm going to ask you one time to join my network, fill out my form, right? And that's going to collect your information. And then I'm going to communicate with you about what I want you to know when I want you to know it. But I'm not actually leveraging the capabilities of the technology to go in there and build a relationship over time, which is about connecting, gathering information over time, understanding when you change and when new things are happening. That's why, I used to find recruiters all the time would come back and say that the CRM was useless to them because the data was stale, right? They couldn't access it, they couldn't leverage it. And that's where marketing automation actually allows us to do a better job in that space.
I think point of clarification here, because you guys all know what marketing automation is, right? And to be honest, it's a bit of a misnomer that because it comes from B2B and B2C, the actual correct description for it, which Forrester coined initially, was lead to revenue management. Okay. So lead to revenue management. So it's like from somebody who knows kind of nothing about you to actually becoming a customer. So when you apply that to talent, it is, either prospect or potential candidate to applicant management. Okay. And so that's what it is. That's what marketing automation for talent acquisition is. And what's muddying the water is that CRM technology is called CRM technology, which is meant to be about candidate relationship management, which is not. It's just we would describe it as a slightly faster ATS, right? And so there's this confusion there, but unfortunately that's the term that's stuck, and really difficult to shift it. Difficult to create a new software category around that's not CRM, that is this lead to revenue management. So I think we're going to be stuck with the term marketing automation for.
Scott, the one thing I think, like, if you think of the biggest pain point facing almost any TA team right now, ghosting has to be one of the top 3 that would come up every single time. So for me, marketing automation becomes a little bit of anti-ghosting software, right? If you think about how you could put in somebody on an interview or even on a start date, especially when you talk about mass hiring, high volume hiring, we've had some really good tests where we've used the nurturing capability to actually get people to show up for interviews, to get people to show up day one. And when we talk to them and we kind of go through and survey and ask why did you show up to this interview? When you have an unlimited number that you could, and they were like, I felt like for the first time, this company actually wanted me. They don't realize the automation, right? It's the same automation we get. I bought this stupid hoodie the other day that they would not leave me alone. Everywhere I went in the world, I kept seeing this goddamn hoodie to the point where I had to buy it. And this is the same thing. We have to let people know that they're desired and wanted. And I think marketing automation does that exponentially better than an ATS or a CRM.
But we have to remember who they learned ghosting from. They learned it from us. They learned it from us because we ghosted them. We gave them a great opportunity. We sent them an email, then nothing, right?
And we're still ghosting them. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is what you just talked about, Tim. That's not ghosting. If you start to, not just your applicants, not just your individuals who are coming in for interviews, but for everybody who, again, you provide at least some information around maybe not this position, maybe something they're more qualified for, at least invite them back to take a look at other positions, whatever it might be. They are feeling that ghosting. So therefore it's okay, because it's standard. They did it to me, so therefore I can do it to them. If we treat them, again, with more care, then maybe they'll trust us. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. I don't think we can get to that, Chad, until we have these really strong marketing automation tools sitting on top of this database, because otherwise what happens is teams and recruiters and recruitment marketers don't know when or what information is relevant to send to somebody. At what point do I want to make that connection or connect with individuals? And that's where real good, strong marketing automation provides that framework for people. So I don't have to remember. Because I don't think recruiters intentionally are sitting there going, I want to ghost everybody, right?
No, it's
I want to treat them like crap and not talk to them.
Yeah.
They just are overwhelmed and don't have the time and energy to do it. And so they need tools that do it for them, that they can set up the cadence and the plan and the purpose, but let the tool take over the action of remembering to pick up, remembering to send the communication, to connect in the right way.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder too, how much of it is on the organization to kind of take that we care about people attitude, and we want to be able to understand talent better and communicate with talent in a more meaningful way. And how much of it is on the market and a lot of the providers out there. Everyone has like a different heritage. Like some started as a CRM, some were just a career site that built a light CRM, and they're all offering like different flavors of recruitment marketing. And I think a company going in, they've got $500,000 to spend on this type of technology. They expect to get it all from this provider, and it's just not there. And then you add in another piece of marketing automation, and they feel a little bit overwhelmed. I almost think the providers, and maybe it's kind of us in the market, that need to just provide that education to say, this is needed, and we're just not seeing it from a lot of these providers.
That's due diligence though, right? I mean, if you're going to spend the money on a multi-million-dollar platform, I mean, again, we have to understand that there's vaporware out there. It's our job to actually either have experts come in, like have a Madeline come in and help us through that process, or we're going to get junk. It is what it is, right? So it's like the Carfax. We look at the Carfax first.
Yeah, do your research.
Yeah, I was going to say something as well, because after marketing automation, there was another, like, sales enablement software came, okay? Because if you think about automation, right, automation of marketing, that's about you telling your story of your company brand and your employer brand and then your job brand. Okay, that's all great for engagement and everything. But then somebody gets to the stage where they want to talk, that's when, like, you can either manually try and convert them, or you can use sales enablement software to kind of like create little mini drip campaigns and things like that, right? But you can actually do both within the one marketing automation platform. But anyway, so Tim talked about ghosting. Okay, I want to talk about, let's dig into some of the other big pains and why the functionality or deployment of a CRM or an ATS doesn't help, it doesn't work, and what specific functionality within marketing automation does help. The two that I see we talk about a lot are that, at the enterprise level, only 2 out of every 1,000 applications make it into like a recruiter conversation. Okay, 998 get rejected. That's a massive administration burden. So how can you help there? And then also, typically only 74% of visitors to a career site will do something, which means you're spending all this money to get people to look at your jobs, and only 26 out of every 100 are actually doing anything. That's another massive number. But I mean, Madeline, I'll start with you again. In terms of the big pains that you see in TA and how, we might be able to move the needle on this, what's your experience?
Yeah, I mean, beyond ghosting and just kind of what other challenges companies face. Yeah, I mean, I think a big challenge I'm seeing is just kind of an understanding of like what's going into the talent acquisition process. It's like we're collecting data and all these various elements, but we really don't understand what those experiences are. We don't understand why candidates are dropping off at whatever stage they're dropping off. We don't understand, why we're kind of struggling in these different areas. So I think there's, a data issue. I mean, Allyn and I have talked about this so many times, and I think it's kind of this pervasive issue within talent acquisition, but it's at the core of, I think, everything we're talking about. We're using all these different technology systems today, 10 plus, we're collecting all this data, but we're not really understanding what that candidate journey looks like. We don't understand what we need to change. We don't understand why candidates are ghosting us or why they're opting out at different stages. And then we don't understand, for this conversation, like who's ready now to be able to come and join our organization. So I think that's something that we're going to see have to shift in the next few years. And then I think kind of just as part of that, I think there's so many technology solutions out there. And I think what companies are doing right now is they're struggling is like, let's invest more, and not necessarily understanding how they all work together or which ones, Tim, to your point, are where recruiters actually are going to spend their time. Like we have to make sure recruiters are going to be using these systems and it's going to improve their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a broken kind of, process, which is, it's been that way for a long time. But if you imagine, like we have too many people that are applying to a job in the enterprise level, and then either that job isn't right for them or that hiring manager didn't feel that person was right for that job, but yet the person's very talented and yet we do nothing with them, right? It's like, nope, for job A, you weren't good, but we have job 5,753 that you might be good for. And it's almost like we have to take a recruiter and say, hey, how do we turn you into like a talent concierge or a talent agent, or like, hey, I found a great talented person. This is Allyn, and I'm going to walk Allyn through the entire corporation until somebody says, oh, heck yes, I want her on my team. And then we start to really, look at this. The problem we have is like, if you're a recruiter and you have 100 openings and you're swamped with just trying to keep your head above water, you can never get to that point. And that's the struggle.
Yeah.
Well, that's again, scale wise, you have to look for tech that will help you identify and scale, right? That's what it is. A recruiter can't do that. They have way too much on their plate. Not to mention, I don't think most companies don't have enough recruiters as it is in the good times, let alone right now.
Well, fundamentally, I think this comes to the point that we're just, it's going to sound rude, but we're recruiting ass backward, right? Any good sales funnel, right, understands that I'm acquiring individuals into the process who I want to convert and drive interest for. And then I start to understand who they are and connect them to the right product or opportunity for them, right? We don't do that with recruiting somehow, right? We haven't gotten ourselves away from what we were doing in the 1840s, right? Which is, let's publish a job ad because I need somebody to help man the butcher counter, right, on Thursday. And that's not the world that we live in anymore. People, that happens. Yes. There are jobs where that's relevant and that makes sense. But for the mass majority of where we're at today, we instead are looking at individuals, bringing them in over time and finding out where they connect. And we're still asking recruiters to act like people who are applicant sorters, right? rather than people who are doing exactly what Tim's talking about, which is locating and finding talent. And we have all this new technology. Look at what we're doing with AI, right? Look at what we're doing with, the capabilities that exist within our data sorting systems with the ATSs and the CRMs. We can organize this data and information. We can start to find the matches and connect people to opportunities. But we have absolutely no idea which information we need to make decisions on. We don't know how to collect it, and we don't know what to do with it when it gets there. And so all we can think of to do is keep telling people, wouldn't it be nice to come and work here? Oh, by the way, I don't have time to look at your application.
Allyn, I love saying this.
Sorry.
It's never been easier in the history of the world to find talent, and never been harder in the history of the world to hire talent.
Right.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Hubert, you look as though you're about to say something there, but if not, I can. There's one other. Adam and I had a really interesting conversation with Steve Lucas, who's the CEO of iCIMS, okay? And he's ex-Marketo. He sold Marketo, which is one of the biggest marketing automation platforms, to Adobe for $3 billion. So he understands it kind of like intuitively. And he made a point which has really resonated with us. It's like, look, I think marketing automation is where it's at because it's got the potential to deliver the richest candidate profile, okay? Now, what that means is that you get all the firmographic and demographic and skills information on the candidate. You get all that, okay? But what that marketing automation gives you, which no one else gives you, is what's their intent, okay? How interested are they, right? And what's their relationship been like with you? You know, have they been engaging with you for 9 months or for a year? And what cadence and what speed and what was the content that worked and didn't work and all that kind of stuff. So you have this really, really super rich candidate profile data that you could then put machine learning on top of, and you could just we believe that don't rely on applications, just rely on genuine talent pipelines and get the technology to serve unbelievable people that are a great match and highly interested to the recruiters on a daily basis. And but it all comes to that richness of the candidate profile. Allyn, I mean, you've been like an operator, right? You've been on the ground at Intel, and I mean, what's your the vision that you kind of had there in terms of the direction of travel that you were going in, and how you might get technology to use it and what you wanted to do, etc.
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right when you talk about the fact that what marketing automation does is provide a richness to that candidate profile, right? So that candidate profile, the data and the information I know about a candidate is really the gold, right? And I need to not just know who they are and what their skills and capabilities are, but what their interest level is, where they're evolving to, what they've done in the past, how they connect with my relationship, and et cetera. And marketing automation can allow me to collect that data over time. And that's really been, I see the direction that I've been working with companies with, and I'm seeing more and more companies trying to head to, but it's hard because they're having to break this kind of pattern of behavior that we have, which is I don't think about hiring until I have that job opening in front of me, right? We're using that requisition frequently as the thing to drive when I need to know about people or where they're at. And marketing, honestly, right? When trying to put marketing automation into place, it doesn't work, I don't think, successfully, if it's just kind of on that on-demand immediate hiring process, right? Because all that does is become extra weight to the candidate to try and provide us with all of this information, or what feels like spam to them because it's disconnected from where they're at, which is this immediate moment in time where they're looking for something. So I think as an operator, it's really challenging to look at what is your intent? What are the decisions you need to make about candidates? When do you need to make those decisions? And then what data do you need to collect over time? And how do you switch your business processes to allow you to execute to that? It's not just about, you can't just put a piece of, you cannot just go put a piece of technology in place and expect everything to change overnight, right? Your roles, your business process, and your strategy have to change.
Yeah, and what we've done is, way back and when the ATS first started, all we did is we took our paper process and we slammed it into the technology, and we just made the same process just on a screen. And in many cases, that hasn't changed. When we're taking 30 minutes to actually fill out an application is ridiculous, especially, I don't want to go too crazy into, but we haven't changed. We need to implode our process. entirely. And we need to build from the ground up. That's not easy, but it's something that we have to do. If we take a look at technologies that grow and then they crumble, it's because they hit that technical debt where they didn't rebuild when they should have. We need to rebuild our processes. We need to be, again, more focused on the experience and providing the care into that, which includes nurturing. And obviously the automation piece, because we cannot scale as human beings. We need to be able to provide automation to do that.
Yeah, it's such a good point. It's like most of the technology that we're using today is just mirroring the broken process that we've had.
Right.
It's just putting that into technology. This takes a shift in our approach to say, do we want to know more about the candidates? Do we want a deeper understanding of them? And then do we want to approach it from this care perspective in a more meaningful way? And that's a shift. That's a different approach.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to come back. I'd like to come back to the original kind of question, which was like, so what? Okay, like from a business outcomes point of view, what does this really mean, right, for organizations? Okay, and I mean, for us, it's like productivity, but what does that mean underneath that, and where do you think that the so what? I'll start with Tim, right, because I know that you've run this type of tech as well.
Yeah, it's more of a rifle versus shotgun approach. And I think ultimately in the history of TA, we've been very shotgun focused. It was like, hey, we don't want a certain candidate. We want all the candidates, and that becomes kind of the core failure of really great TA teams, is trying to get everybody to apply to their jobs, not the one person they want to hire to apply to their job. So for me, the so what is, it's, again, going back to the productivity, the focus, the efficiency side, is how do we go after people we really want to go after and land those versus just going after anybody? And I think that's, again, back to what Madeline was saying, that's definitely a shift in the way we think about talent acquisition.
Yeah, well, and I think also when we start talking about scale, I'm hitting scale over and over and over because it's so important today, is that it's not just shotgun and rifle, it is carpet bombing and sniper, right? I mean, it's an entirely different scope of what we've ever been used to before. But again, if we go down to the basics and we understand that the process that we have today is old, it's broken, it needs to be thrown away. We need to be able to bring experts in to help us actually walk through that journey, so that a company like SAIC and Amy Butchko, 180,000 employees, right? They blew up their entire process, had like a 30-minute application process, knocked it down to under 10 minutes, but they focused on the actual experience in providing care to that individual, because they know that the individuals that they need to hire, not just today, but tomorrow, the cleared people, the people who have skills that are very hard to find, they have to treat them with white gloves. They have to care. And if they don't, they will miss them and their competitors will get them. If we don't start to get that mindset today and start to apply that to technology and automation to scale it to a much larger degree, we're going to lose every single time.
Yeah.
Allyn, you, from a kind of other side of the fence, in-house TA team, what were the so what, when you thought about the so what, the business outcomes that you were trying to achieve, and what were they specific? What were they typically?
So I think there were two. First, obviously the efficiency play, which is as a enterprise TA team, one of the things you're always challenged with is how do you manage the bandwidth of your recruiters and your teams, and so they're spending time on the value-added tasks, right? And if they're spending their time just sorting through applications and pushing paper, which is what I kind of think that process starts to look like, then that's not really value add, right? That's one place. But I think the other big piece is in quality, right? Hiring managers consistently are telling us that they're not getting the quality of candidate that they're looking for. And they say it in words that confuse us. We found that they frequently will say things like, I want to see more, show me more, I need to see more. And we translate that as, let me give you more people to look at. Let me widen my scope and show you 1 million people instead of just 5 people. And what they're really trying to say to us when we got down into the information with them was, I want you to show me the right people at the right time. Kind of goes to what Tim's saying, which is we use this big, huge approach that says, give me everybody and I'll filter and you'll just find somebody in that mess and they'll be fabulous, rather than targeting very specifically the high quality talent that we need. And hiring managers consistently are coming back to us and saying, listen, I want the right people at the right time for the right job, because I've got to move my business and I've got to move it fast. And I expect you as a talent organization to be able to recognize them, know them, and be able to give them to me. And we just don't know how to do that. And our second answer has been, or answer up to this point has been, let me put some technology on top of my database, right? Like my AI technology, et cetera, to automate the paper pushing, which we ask recruiters to do, which is matching against skills and capabilities, but it misses the point and still doesn't meet the quality requirements because we don't have enough information about the people. We didn't collect it. We don't understand who they are. We didn't know what we needed to make decisions off of. Or by the time we find those people, they're not interested in us and we can't convert them. So I think, from a business perspective, those are the big challenges. How do we become efficient at it? How do we have recruiters spending the time doing the right things that are value add? And how do hiring managers get quality candidates when they need them?
I've got, Chad, you were hopping about from foot to foot there. And I was wondering if you were burning to say something, because I've got another question.
No, I'm just basking in Allyn's intelligence. I don't always get it. So I get a chance to do it today.
Okay, so I want to pick up on that. We're going to bring in Bradley and Adam in a minute as well, and we're going to move into kind of like operational and practicalities. But I mean, I don't want you guys to leave. I think this is such a rich conversation that, provided we all don't talk with each other, I think we can do it with an extra two, right? But I want to come back to Tim's point around what you wrote recently about, look, there's a game going on here, and the game is going on here, which kind of rides on the coattails of confusion. Okay. And the thing is unless you've actually personally deployed and run marketing automation, you don't really know what it does until you do it, right? And when you do it, you're like, oh my God, I didn't think you could do that, right? And so there's a game going on here where the ATS guys and the CRM guys are saying, yeah, we can do that, right? But Salesforce bought Pardo for $1 billion, right? And then they said they could do marketing automation for 5 years before that. Okay, they couldn't. They could do like 5% of it. And then they said when they bought it that they were going to integrate it, and they didn't manage to do that either, right? Still two entirely separate systems, okay? Because at the technology level, they're fundamentally different in the database architecture, which means that if you start off in the wrong database architecture, you can't actually do it, okay? You don't. So Tim, tell me a little bit more about the game, okay? And what you're seeing and how you think they're able to get away with it, and whether, I mean, eventually at what time they might get found out.
Well, there's two big things. One is simple economics of, and this is the enterprise recruiting module versus ATS play, right? You go and get a big giant recruiting module and it doesn't do anything, but you can't go back to your CFO and say, hey, we needed an ATS, because they just spent 7 figures getting you what they thought was an ATS. And so there's some economics there where you say, hey, we bought this big giant, CRM that does everything. Oh, by the way, it doesn't do everything. We need to buy some marketing automation. And so there's that where you're going, okay, wait a minute, we can't, we just don't have this, budget wise. I do think like the other side of that then is really, we're working with a buyer base that is unsophisticated around marketing technology. And so they don't know what they don't know. So when they buy the CRM and the CRM says, oh yeah, we do all this. And then they go through and they go, well, gosh, that isn't what I thought it was going to do. They're just like, yeah, but that's how it works. And they don't know any better. So part of this is education, right? As the buyer going, wait a minute, no, somebody over here does this way better. And, I know this will actually work. It just won't work with your technology. And that's the problem, right? Is we just, and again, this isn't a judgment on TA leaders and TA buyers. It's just how sophisticated and how confusing the marketplace is right now for them to go out and select something that does what they needed to do when they have marketing and salespeople basically not really giving them the full story. And again, this isn't a vendor issue either. That's just sales and marketing in the entire world, right? We oversell and underdeliver quite a bit.
Yeah.
Cool.
I noticed recently, and I don't know, Scott, if you're a lot of what you've been doing at Candidate ID is sparking this from some of the vendors, but I've noticed a lot of CRMs shifting and pivoting their messaging to say, oh, we do this too. We're doing marketing automation, and it's sort of been coming up. But I think, going back to Chad's point, it's really on the buyer to do that due diligence and to do their research. I think you could reach out to any of us on this panel, and we could probably help provide some of what we've experienced in helping you kind of get to finding the right solution.
No excuses. No excuses. It's your job. You're responsible. If you have to pull somebody in, you have to get the due diligence done, and you have to map on how you're going to build this. We always say ATS, but there's the ATS is a relic, for God's sakes. This is a tech stack that we're building. And for the most part, the variations that we're going to build for an organization is going to be different from organization to organization, from industry to industry. So to be able to think that it's going to be just that easy where we have one piece of tech, those days are gone, kids.
So yeah, welcome Bradley, Adam. So Bradley is, for those who don't know him, is the founder of Candidate Hub, which is the other kind of marketing automation platform for recruitment and talent acquisition. Bradley, welcome. Great to meet you. And also Adam, co-founder at Candidate ID. So we're going to move now to the how, the operational kind of practicalities, how to get to success, challenges, pitfalls. And Allyn and Madeline are going to stay with us because they've also got kind of a fair amount of experience in this area as well. So, hey, Bradley, do you want to kind of kick off with, some of your experience in terms of the moving parts that you need to get right, in terms of getting to success, and kind of just tips or challenges on for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question to start off, Scott. And I think the best way to address that is just with mistakes that we see, and I'm sure, Adam, you probably have seen this oftentimes too, is that when organizations try to implement a marketing automation system, they try to eat the whole elephant in one bite. And it's really important to pick away at it. You can't automate your whole business in a day. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So start if you're looking at implementing automation. The biggest key to success is starting small, and pick a what's your biggest priority? What's the biggest thing you need to automate that's going to save you time? And start there, and don't start with the most complex. Start with something small and something easy, and automate it, and get your system sort of going, and then build from there. And don't wait until it's perfect to hit go. So once you start getting sort of your ideas around some of the things you want to automate, build something, test it. You constantly be looking at your reports and your rates, and modify from there. I think it's important not to just to try to eat the whole elephant in one bite.
Adam?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few different aspects to it. The first thing that I would think about is which parts of recruitment are we going to be able to create the most productivity from using John Lewis. It's a big department store business in the United Kingdom. John Lewis hired in 2019 one shepherd and one lifeguard. They're not going to create marketing automation programs and start nurturing shepherds and lifeguards for one hire a year. They are, however, going to create marketing automation programs to nurture and hire people in technology, people in retail management, people in buying and merchandising and finance, and those areas where they're very regularly hiring. So that's the first big one. And then for me, the second big one is around content. And it's around this big, scary subject of, whoa, how am I going to create content? Because they've seen people creating videos on TikTok and going, wow, how did they do that? And thinking that's the quality of the stuff they need to produce. It doesn't need to be Disney quality, content. And there are hundreds of things already out there that you could use to nurture candidates with. It doesn't need to be your content. It could be somebody's video on YouTube. It could be somebody's blog. It could be acting as a curator in the way that Hung Lee does with Recruiting Brain Food is a really great way of generating goodwill and relationships with the people you want to build relationships without having to go and create loads of your own content. So that's two that I think are quite important to look at.
I'll go to Allyn first and then to Madeline. But Allyn, I mean, from when you were kind of deploying new technology, and when you're working with companies on that, what are the big things that kind of you would focus on and insights that you would share with the audience?
So I think number one, get really clear about what it is that you're trying to do, right? I mean, I think that both Bradley and Adam have really good points, right? Pick the things where you can create the most value, focus in on the right things. Don't just look at a shiny object and go, that's going to solve world hunger for me, right? And then I think that, by understanding very clearly what it is that you're trying to do, understand your intent, then you need to understand all the pieces that you need to put in place to make that technology work for you, right? So, as Adam talked about, right, when people get freaked out about how am I going to have the right content? What do I need? How do I know? So great, you gave me a marketing automation tool, but how do I know where is the right place to ping somebody or to create the right tree to drive information in certain ways, right? So if those are where the challenges are, know that ahead of time and start thinking about how are you going to prepare your teams to be able to leverage it and use it in the right ways. What are the things you need to put in place to support that, to execute? One of the biggest things that happen is people go and, they'll listen to a webinar like this, or they'll buy a piece of technology, or they think they're going to bring something in. They'll go small, they'll bite size it, they'll bring in a pilot, and they'll find that it's not productive for them. And it's usually not productive because they haven't done all the stuff to make it successful around it. And so they have low levels of adoption. People are frustrated. They don't know how it fits into their process. People don't know which roles are supposed to execute to it. And then they throw their hands up in the air and say, well, this just doesn't work for me. Let me go back to what I was doing before. And they find that what they were doing before feels better to them because they have all the ecosystem of business processes, people, and support set up to do that. So even though it's harder and not as effective, it feels better because they think they know how to do it. So before you go in and start putting technology in, know what it is that you want to do and understand what ecosystem you need in place to make it work.
I want to kind of, maybe there's something here.
Allyn, sorry, just just quickly say, Allyn, that reminds me of when people go from Taleo and they go and buy a shiny ATS like the Smart Recruiters, and then they try and bend Smart Recruiters into being what Taleo was.
Right. They always, and they'll come up with all these reasons why, right? Oh, well, I have to do it this way. It's the way we've always done it. Or somebody told me that was legally the rule, why I have to operate this way. Or most of the reasons that people make choices and decisions and try and bend things into what they used to know is because that's just the ecosystem of support they put in place already.
And change is pretty scary. And we always talk about, people process technology, right? People process technology. It's a three-legged stool. If you buy the right tech, it's not going to let you down. Okay, it's going to be the operating model and the skills of the people. And I wonder whether Madeline and Allyn and with Tim and Chad and Brad and Adam, is that it's on us to provide a roadmap. To provide when John Miller, he was one of the founders of Marketo. And he wrote the definitive guide to marketing automation. Okay, it was like 120 pages, this thing. It was just so, you could look at it and you could go, right, I know how to do this and I follow this Bible and so a question for Madeline is, people process technology. Chad's talked about we need to implode the operating model. We need to build from the ground up. Maybe there's an opportunity here for us to kind of you do this stuff all the time, but just to kind of actually go, look, here's a Bible that you could cherry pick from and follow this kind of roadmap, A to Z, and that might help you, get to success quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is a need for that, but I think back to Allyn's point, which I think is so brilliant, is that if those conversations are not happening before you're investing in the technology, there's not much you can do. And I think what I see happen all the time is we're really excited. This seems like a simple, intuitive technology that we want to use. It seems like something would be easy to get buy-in for, but it's really difficult to implement, to integrate with our existing systems. And there are all these challenges that just weren't discussed before investing in the technology. I mean, sometimes I think it's a guide, but also putting in place, like, what exactly do we need internally? How many hours of IT's time do we need? If we're not going to get that, do we need to invest in consultants to help us? What type of change management is needed, if any, to be able to make sure that this is successful? And I think that combination of it coming from a provider to say this is the roadmap for how it's done, but also really putting the pieces in place internally to say this is what we are going to need to be able to use that Bible. It's kind of that combination, I think. And I think what I see happen so often is, like, even like these simple areas of technology, is companies just aren't thinking about those questions before they invest. They think about them after, and then it becomes more frustrating than it is helpful.
And I think sometimes what's happening then is they go to these companies. I know we did it as well when I was working, as you go to these companies that you've now partnered with from a technology perspective, and you're working with their customer success team, you're working with their configuration and implementation team, and you feel like you're making progress to answering these questions, but you're really just configuring and implementing, putting the system in place so it operates. You still haven't done kind of the inward work you need to do to be able to access and leverage it. So, and it's not, I don't think it's necessarily the responsibility of the technology company to understand your business to that level to be able to help you ask those questions. I think this is something internal teams need to figure out how to get support and help to do, because it's hard, right? It does require change. Technology is not just going to solve all your problems.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add to that too is, like, this industry is amazing because people share their experience. I mean, that's not the case in other industries. I mean, reach out to people. I mean, I've reached out to Lynn a million times into that Intel to ask for advice and opinions, and I know other companies did as well. I mean, there are so many companies out there that have invested in different types of technology, gone through change management, leverage the community, because it's an amazing one.
Bradley, you looked like you were going to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo what Allyn said and go back to what Adam said about trying to bend smart recruiters to be DiPaolo. Like, not often when companies are implementing a new technology, they want to change, but they don't want to change. And when you're implementing marketing automation, you not only do you have to think about what processes you want to automate, but what does that automation look like? And it doesn't necessarily look like the way you do it today. Like, with automation, it makes it so much easier to respond to, different channels. Like, Candidate ID just launched WhatsApp, right? So, if you've always responded by email, doesn't mean that that's always the way you have to do it moving forward. Now you have omni-channel support. So, when you're going through your process and setting up your automation, it's important to think about what that journey looks like for your candidate, and being willing to change your process to match that journey. Because if you're not willing to do that, then you're just getting a shiny tool that's going to keep things the same way they are today. You have to be willing to sort of adopt and change your process to match. I mean, if we think about, like, I think about my friends and family. Some people text me on iMessage, some it's SMS, some it's Facebook Messenger. We all have our different channels we want to communicate on, and if we stick to just what we know, it's not going to be as effective. So when you're implementing your strategy, you have to be willing to sort of bend. This is the way we've always done it, but this is the way we can do it now. So let's take advantage of it.
Adam, I've got a question for you as well. So when you're talking to people that are interested in us, I guess, and same question for Bradley as well, and you get a sense of that there are certain things that they need to have in play in order to be successful, right? And if they don't have them, the best thing to say is, no, sorry, this is not going to work for you. Go away and get this in play. Go fix that, and that. And then when you've done it, come back and talk to us. Because if it's not successful, it's no good for you. It's no good for us, right? So just kind of like, what are some of the things that you come across with the people that you talk to where it's like, no, you need to go and fix that?
Yeah. Okay. So the first one would be, I mean, if you've got if you've got 100 hires every year and it is 100 hires in 50 different jobs, you don't really need marketing automation. It's not something it's more effort than the reward you're going to generate. Mm-hmm. If you've got 100 hires a year and 30 of them are one type, another 20 are another type, then absolutely a marketing automation approach is going to be something well worth looking at. So the need for it, establishing the need for it within your own organization. If you don't have the need, don't do it. It's more hassle than it's worth. Second thing is, if you don't have the right mindset, and the right mindset is not about, let's send out communications to people telling them about our jobs. That is absolutely not the right mindset. Matt O'Donnell in the chat earlier said, I really love the way that IBM does this. What IBM does is they send out communications to nurture their talent pipelines, where 95% of every communication is about skills, insights, things that are going to help people be better at their jobs. And they're doing that to build goodwill with those people. And then down in the tiny, tiny small print at the bottom, there's a recruitment call to action. But almost everything else is about, just being useful and building goodwill with those people. So if you've got the wrong mindset, which is, I need to fill this job next week, so I'm going to blast these people with a message, that's not going to work. It's a medium-term approach. And then I guess the third one, which is linked to that, would be around overcoming that fear about content. What I said earlier is there's content all around us we can repurpose for nurturing talent. And you don't have to have recruitment marketers embedded into your team. You can have recruiters do this, but they need to understand to try different things, send people different formats, different subjects, in different channels, as Bradley was saying, and work out what works. What are people clicking on and what are they not clicking on? And whatever they're clicking on, do more of that. So being able to just have the right type of mindset is really vital.
Bradley, anything to add to that in terms of where you would go, no, we're not doing this, sorry?
Yeah, no, I think Adam's point about the types of roles that you're filling, like if you're hiring 100 different roles, or if you're hiring 5 people a year, don't invest the time and money. It's not worth it. It's like you're trying to show up to a gunfight with a tank. Like, it's just not necessary. But the other thing is too is you have to be, and it goes back to what I just said, you have to be willing to look at your entire process and be willing to change. And not be afraid of that content piece, like Adam said, because where I see it fall off the rails is people implement marketing automation, and then they expect the same results doing the same processes that they would have with an external recruiter or their internal team, and it doesn't work that way. You need to have a strong lead gen strategy. You need to have a strong nurturing strategy. And it's important to kind of put those pieces in place, or at least be talking about them before you even pull the trigger on the automation tool. Because if you're not thinking about those, you're going to be falling behind right out of the gate. And like Adam said, it's important to be nurturing them, like the case of IBM and their content. If you think about, like, you go to a company website and you check out an item, and then all of a sudden you're getting emails about sales all the time, it's going to drive you crazy. It's the same thing if you go to a company website and you read a job ad, and then all of a sudden you're getting blasted with job opportunities. You're not ready for that, and it's going to drive the candidate away. You need to nurture them based on where they're at in the process. And that's what's really great about Candidate Hub and Candidate ID is both platforms really measure the intent and will help you to personalize that content based on the stage that the candidate is in. So you really need to have a strong strategy of where that's going. And if you don't have the ability to do that or the willingness to do that, then it's going to be a shiny box on the shelf and it's not worth it.
Madeline,
just quickly to add to what Bradley said there, the way that, and this is to do with the main subject, which is about what's the difference between CRM and marketing automation. And in order to be able to actually segment your candidates as cold, warm, hire ready, so that you know who should be getting content for those who are cold, for those who are warm, for those who are hire ready, you need to be able to score all of their interactions, automatically score. Are they clicking on your tweets? Are they opening your text messages? Are they watching the videos on your videos on YouTube? Are they going to your career site? Are they looking at job descriptions? And you need a scoring model, which is, if they open an email, it's something low, like 1 point. If they go to a job description, it's something high, like 10 points. Those people that have only got 1 point, they're single digits, they're just getting content for people who are cold. Those who are on 20 or more points, they're getting content, which is probably at that point, the hard sell. Let's schedule a call. Let's talk about your career. Let's find out which jobs are good for you. But not very many people are up there. Most people are down here, and you've got to nurture them through through that funnel.
Madeline, sorry, Bradley. But Madeline, you were you were about to say something. It doesn't matter if we roll over on time a little bit, but we want to keep it not too close to the hour. But I've got one last big question I want to pose to Madeline. But before I do that, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I just really like what Adam said about content too. It's like, I think there is this fear of content. Like, we don't know what the right content is. We're hesitant because we don't know, what we should be sending and how we should be. I think, the 2 points to kind of echo what Adam said is, one, nothing you're doing is set in stone. You're just seeing what's working. You can adjust it as you go. And I think the other piece is marketing. Your company's already doing this. They're already doing this on the marketing side with every interaction you have with consumers, even, B2B is doing this. This is happening already. Like, test the waters a little bit, and it should be happening in talent acquisition as well.
Okay, so just to kind of close and frame kind of like the future context, and when we think about like future proofing a technology stack and an operating model, I wanted to ask you, Madeline, about some of the big trends that you see coming. I mean, Jason Carcello from Arcadian Ventures recently, shared their State of Talent 2021 report, and some of the stuff that was in that was terrifying. And if you think about the different role types and the applicant flow at different role types, you might be getting close to a situation in certain types of technology roles where you have zero applicant flow because they're just not applying, right? And if you're getting zero applicant flow, then you're going to have to double down and do something different, right? So, Madeline, what are the big trends that you see coming, and what organizations might, do to future-proof themselves? And then the same question to Allyn.
Yeah, I mean, I think that companies are going to continue to invest in technology. I mean, this market's done very well. I think that's going to continue. And I think companies have to really think about what technology is going to be able to meet the goals that your company is looking for in attracting talent, in providing a recruiter experience where these are tools that recruiters want to use and are actually adopting. And if you think about just kind of the CRM recruitment marketing conversation and where that's going, right now, companies are spending tons of money in the CRM and they're not adopting it. And that's a situation that can only last for so long. I mean, I think we're going to look at a bigger picture of what marketing automation can do and how it provides value in recruitment marketing, and needs to be part of that conversation. So the more the CRM is not being adopted, the more we're going to continue to have these conversations around what is actually driving value within, this attraction stage.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think you're absolutely right, Madeline. I think, at the end of the day, I love where you're going with the state of talent, right? I mean, listen, if you've got zero applicant flow, and we're headed down that direction, you have really two options in front of you. Well, actually three. One, do nothing, right? And many companies are doing that because they're afraid and they don't know what movement to make. Option two is to double down on your current strategy and just pay more and do more. Go and get yourself some more ad dollars and push out more banners and crank. And maybe that'll get you some more flow because, you can get a few more drips into your bucket. Or you realize that you have to take a big, deep breath and rip apart everything you've got and restart and reframe and rethink about your entire process from beginning to end, and then what technology you need to execute it. That feels super scary in a world that's in constant change. But the companies that are doing that are the ones who I think are going to be successful.
Can I just say one other quick thing about this, which is because we're coming towards the end of this, but just so that anybody that's listening to this understands, I think it might sound like we're talking about you got to do a load more work than you're currently doing here. So that's extra stuff for your TA team or your recruitment marketing team or your resourcers or whatever. But the trade-off is, from companies I know, around 50% less cold sourcing time. That's a vast amount of time that's saved by applying a marketing automation approach, because they can go to their talent pipelines instead of going and cold contacting people and, you know, getting their answering machines and getting ghosted on LinkedIn or whatever. Around 20 to 30% less job board advertising needed, and various other things that you need to do much less of. So I don't think anybody's suggesting here there's a load of additional work and that'll help you hire more people. This is a load of additional work which will stop you doing a much, much higher amount of old school recruitment stuff.
I'm gonna kind of like, so we're gonna close, right? And I'm gonna go around everyone and ask for like a one closing thought to leave, you know, with the audience. And the one for me was that, you know, both Hackett jobs research among software engineers, and I think Arcadian's research amongst the American jobs market is that, so 74% of software engineers in Europe do not anticipate to be working for the same company in the next 2 years. And I think the number is something like 75% of the US total employees don't anticipate to be working for the same country within the next year. So not only have you got an applicant flow challenge, you've also got an attrition challenge, right? So you're going to have to think about that. Okay, Bradley, and then to Allyn, and then to Madeline.
Yeah, I think for me, the big thing is kind of going back to the whole point of this conversation, CRM versus marketing automation. And for CRM and ATS automation, when you're looking at implementing automation, it's what do you want to do? If you just want to automate simple tasks like booking an interview, that's not marketing automation. Marketing automation is about being strategic and targeted. So it allows you to really focus your efforts. Like if we think about if a marketing person came and said, I'm going to spend 80% of our ad budget on a platform where 30% of our target audience exists, they would be like hung out to dry. But TA does it all the time on job boards because the stats say 20 to 30% of people are on job boards, but that's where all the money goes to, right? So marketing automation allows you to be much more targeted, much more strategic in automating that response and nurturing. So like Adam said, instead of spending a lot more time, you're actually just dividing your time and focusing your time on high payoff activities. So instead of sourcing, you're now talking to candidates that are ready to be talked to. You guys call it hire ready, we call it ready for action, whatever you want to call it. It's about getting them to that system or that place through very targeted approaches.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, if I were to leave everybody with one thought, I would say, listen, the reason marketing automation is the direction you need to start thinking about heading versus kind of just collecting people inside a database, which is a CRM, is that we've had this false perception for a long time that we have active and passive candidates. The truth is that we have active, ready to hire candidates and what I would call opportunity harvesters. Most of the population today, just through all the data we saw, knows they're going to be moving jobs at some point, knows that they're not staying in one place for the rest of their lifetime. And so just like any other good consumer marketing framework, that we always need to be able to have a way to engage with them. The difference between marketing automation and a CRM is if I think in that way, then I know that I'm trying to understand where in the harvesting process are they, right? And I can't get there with just a database. I have to have the ability to see insight into how engaged they are and when they're ready.
Madeline, closing thoughts to you.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with what everyone said, but Allyn, kind of just to echo what you're saying, it's like if you go back to Tim's point, which is it's never been harder to it's never been easier to find talent. It's never been harder to find talent at the same time. Like marketing automation is like where that overlap is. It's like where you're finding the talent that's actually ready to join your organization at this time. That's where the magic happens. And that's, you know, there's a lot of technology that can find talent. There's a lot of technology that can help you kind of differentiate yourself. But that overlap is where marketing automation really shines. And I think kind of the other piece to it is recruiters are overwhelmed right now. Like your recruiting teams are completely overwhelmed. To be able to provide solutions that help them do exactly what they need to be successful is a beautiful thing right now in this market. So, I think I always kind of lean towards those solutions.
Brilliant. Look, we're 6 minutes over. I know that Adam would be itching to say something, but I'm going to call it to an end here. Look, thank you so much, Madeline, Bradley, Alan, Chad and Tim from before, and Adam for joining us. Been great having you. Been a great session. And yeah, let's talk about some kind of roadmap or guide, or I don't know, something that will help organizations, navigate their way through this. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Night.
See you, everyone.
See you. Bye.